Share index is currently trading in positive territory, with the local currency also on a firmer footing after dipping at yesterday's market close. Precious metals like gold and platinum appear to be on a downer, with Brent crude also trading slightly lower, but is still trading above that $46 a barrel mark. A slew of company results have been released, with Massmart standing out as it posted a R1 billion loss. Let's take a look at the indicators. Well, for more on the markets, I'm joined by Saki Zamkaka. He's a director at ZAR-X. Thank you so much for joining us, Saki. So just give us your general interpretation of what's happening in the markets, the key drivers. Of course, there's the Jackson Hole meeting that's happening later on today, and that Louisiana storm that we're seeing with Hurricane Laura beaming down on that region, which of course may or may not affect oil prices. So what's your view today?
Thank you again. I mean, as you said, I think the backdrop of what you're talking about on the Jackson Hole meeting is that international news are very important, and international news, especially developments in the financial markets. We're seeing everyone around the world trying to figure out what to do in terms of stimulus packages, both from Europe and the US. COVID-19, of course, still remains a big thing because it's about confidence in the future. And some of these natural disasters even add to the uncertainty. So from an international front, there remains a little bit of uncertainty. And the big thing gets to be with emerging market economies. What are the things that can be done? What are the possibilities? And looking closer to home, I think the big thing still is our stimulus package. We talked about 500 billion. How far is that? What is it doing? Is it really creating stability in the market? And then we're also seeing some results in the market from certain companies, which also are a bit of an indicator of whether we're having a bit of stability in the market. The Reserve Bank shocked a lot of people yesterday by saying the economy may contract by more than 40%. So again, those are the things which boil down to, what is the future going to be in terms of the economy and what is it that's being done to stabilize.
Yeah, sadly, we don't have a crystal ball to forecast what can happen in the future. But of course, we had results which are telling us what has happened in the past. And some of it will be quite obvious. Massmart, for example, they came out with results for their half year ended June 28, basically saying that they made a loss of about 65 million US dollars, which translates to over 800 million rand. Tell us about your thoughts on that particular stock.
So again, Massmart for me has been, again, interesting and a good indicator of what's going on because, one, they are generally consumer facing, so it's giving us that indication. And yes, a 10% reduction on revenue is bound to be very significant to them and then have a big impact on the bottom line. But what is starting to be of interest to me are the shifts that are happening because certain sections of their business have started picking up. And we can see it as people are spending a bit more time at home. They've been buying a lot more homeware. People are cooking a lot more at home. And of course, with the lockdown on and off on the sale of alcohol, that has its own impact as well. So that section of those kinds of commodities actually behaved a little bit better than last year. There was a slight 0.8 increase onto it. And I think what we're likely to see is a change behavior on the basket of things that people are buying. Of course, the lockdown psychologically made us not to go to shops. People are losing jobs, so there's going to be less disposable income for people to buy. So that impact will affect retail. But I think for me, what's going to be really interesting into the future is what are the kinds of things people are buying and where is the potential growth and how that's going to restructure the market. Because I presume even some of these stores may now end up having to consider digital platforms. What will that mean on frontline staff? What is it going to mean in logistics? Maybe there will be a shift on people from frontline staff into being employed into logistics. So I think this time for me is a big learning curve for all of us of what a digitized economy is going to be. And the one big push behind this digitization now has been COVID-19, because people have had to look beyond physical interactions.
Indeed. Sibanye Stillwater, they were due to come out with their results as well. Did we see anything at all, or what had they warned the market that we can expect?
I think the actual results, I think, may be at 3 o'clock, unless I've missed it. I seem to have that time. But what is always interesting about Sibanye is that their results tend to focus on the strategy. These are the acquisitions we're doing. This is the growth. And now with COVID-19, we've seen them putting a little bit of pressure on a bit of focus on safety. So that is a bit of an interesting positioning for a business, because it can have, in my view, good and bad. The good with it is that you keep saying to shareholders, this is the strategy, this is what we're doing, and this is the focus. But at the same time, it can be a big shift of focus in holding management accountable on you are not meeting your milestones. And I think Sibanye, is probably one of the biggest employers in the country. So it's a significant business. It's been aggressive in terms of acquisitions. And some of those acquisitions, in my view, have been a little bit problematic. Similar to Sasol, they also went to the US on platinum. So some of the things they are doing, I think, are a little bit too daring. They've bought assets where the valuations were a little bit questionable. So in the long run, all of us are looking at Sibanye and saying, where are we going to see them? But in terms of stability, they are one of those businesses, big as they are, that has not generally behaved out of the norm compared to its own peers. So for me, what's going to be interesting when I look into these results is whether we're seeing, quarter on quarter, real improvement on some of the long-term things that they've engaged on.
Thank you so much, Saki, for your time. We've run out of time there. That was Saki Zamkaka. He's the director at ZARX. And so we proceed. AO Technology says it accepts the JSE's findings that its financial results did not comply with the international financial reporting standards. The company also accepts that it failed to observe the highest standards of care in the dissemination of financial information in the marketplace. The JSE has imposed a public censure and a fine of 6.5 million rand on AO as a result of its failure to comply with provisions of the listings requirements. The censure concerns breaches of JSE rules,